Krupa Sekhar, GSTEM Co-president. Welcome to our second Girls in STEM interview for the Women in Medicine series. And today we have Francesca Voza, a second-year medical student at Weill Cornell Medical School. Sorry?
Fourth year.
Fourth year. Okay, a fourth-year medical student at Weill Cornell Medical School, here to share her experience as an international student applying to medical school and to offer any advice to young girls who want to follow a similar path. So welcome, Francesca. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview.
Thank you, Krupa.
First, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your educational background, and what specifically in medicine and healthcare interests you?
So I was born and raised in Martinique in the Caribbean. It's a French island placed in the Caribbean. So I grew up in the French system, French educational system, French healthcare system, which is free. And from early on, I knew that I wanted to go into medical school, but that required me to go to France mainland to continue my studies. And over there, the system is very different. The selection is very different. So the way it is that you usually go to medical school right after high school, like most countries outside the U.S. But the selection is very tricky. You enter medical school, the selection is done at the end of the first year, where they select only the first 10% based on your grades only, and they reject other 90%, and you cannot have several trials. You only have 2 chances.
Wow.
So this is what I started with, and unfortunately at the time it was very hard, but I didn't get into medical school over there because I had great grades, but the first 10% had better grades. So I continued in medical sciences and biomedical sciences. I found that the lab was a very interesting environment. I really enjoyed the teamwork over there and how everything was being alive, all the stuff we had learned in books, the DNA, the proteins. And so I found that it was really, really cool. So I decided to continue in that path. And when later on I thought about continuing my graduate education in doing a PhD, I started to look into the U.S. because I knew that for sciences, it would be a really good experience. And also, one thing that I didn't say is that I was born with an American citizenship through my family who had traveled. So I'm not really an international student in that sense that I'm an American citizen, but I have a very international background. So I'll tell you more about my struggles with that. But that's why I chose also to go to the U.S. because I knew that it was very easy for me to come live and work here. So I got into a research lab, and I realized that my heart was still in medicine. And so I decided to continue in medical school and not graduate school for sciences. And that's how, in order for that to happen, I had to enter again an undergraduate program here in the U.S., which I did at CUNY Hunter College, and while working full-time in my lab at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And then I got into Weill Cornell Medical School, which was a fantastic opportunity.
That's awesome. So can you go a little bit more into your struggles and how you kind of overcame those struggles coming from France?
Yeah, so the first struggle, a financial one. I arrived here earning really the minimum salary that you can earn as a technician working in a research lab, a public research lab, which was a great lab. But the thing is that I had no credit history also. I'm an American citizen. I had never lived in the U.S. So as you all know, without credit history, it's very hard to obtain any kind of financial aid, anything that you can maybe pay with a credit card. That was not something that I was able to do. So it took me several years of working to build a credit history and be able to apply to school and have some financial aid. So that was one thing. Another struggle was that I continued to work full time while studying. And that's very challenging. I think the good thing for me was that I had already done quite an intense undergraduate education in France, which I was pretty successful at. So it was really a review, but still, I'm happy that I had the trust of my colleagues and boss to be able to really balance the demands from my work, where I was getting more and more responsibilities with the years going by, and the school. And so sometimes I would be in the lab extremely late at night to be able to run some experiments while I would be studying, and then I would run to class either during lunchtime or in the evening, and just juggle all that. So the good thing was that I had a very flexible schedule, but it was a lot of work, and I've never been scared of working hard. I think if you're going that path, you shouldn't be scared of working hard, and it paid off. Yes.
That's incredible. So shifting gears a little bit, I know that you are part of the Weill Cornell Human Rights Center. So what work have you done at the intersection of social justice and medicine? How did you get interested in that? And how has that impacted your medical education and perspective on healthcare in general?
Well, I think I became aware of very early on of the different disparities that are existing. So through my personal experience as a minority woman, whether it was, so I went from Martinique, where it's a mostly black population, we're all black mixed, to a place where the first time in my life, I found myself being a minority when I moved to Paris to study. So that was a big transition for me that you don't realize at the moment, but afterwards, reflecting on that, I realized how it had impacted me, my performance, my confidence also. And later on through my path with Hunter College, different activities that I was being part of, whether in the clinic or volunteering, I was more and more aware of the different injustices and prejudice that were going on. So that's why I knew that I really want to continue to advocate for my patients and for anyone who suffers from injustice. And that's why when I was looking into medical school programs, I knew that I wanted to play a big role in the, I wanted to be part of the Clinic of Human Rights. And I did not only participate as a volunteer, but I was also a board member during my first year of medical school of the Clinic of Human Rights here at Cornell.
That's awesome.
And just a word about how that has changed my perspective. I feel like when you're in school, you're very sheltered. You have exams, and yes, it's stressful, but you're a bit disconnected of the life of your patients and people around. And I think whenever you volunteer and you help with doing a forensic evaluation, you listen to the stories of the different people seeking asylum, of the different asylum seekers. And it puts everything into perspective when, you realize that you have a roof over your head and food on you have somebody in front of you that has horrific trauma and who is not sure whether or not they can stay in the U.S. or be sent back to their country and be, again, a victim of what they've endured and their life is at risk. And so that really put everything into perspective for me and helped me really go forward and want to do more. It's a big source of motivation also to excel in what you're doing.
So apart from social injustice in STEM for patients, there's also the injustice for people who want to pursue STEM careers. So how do you think that those two issues interplay, both access for minority groups who want to get into STEM careers and social injustice within the healthcare system, treating patients and things like that?
This is a very broad but I'm also very interested for now in trying to increase the number of minorities at school, in the profession. I think I have found fantastic mentors also to work on that, and there are several issues. I think there's an issue with being able to inspire students early on. Wherever you go to school, having really like inspiring figures, role models, whether it's teachers, other doctors around, people who are professionals, to show you that, yeah, you do, so you can think big, and if you cannot be what you cannot see. So I think that's very important to be exposed. And there are several programs, like pipeline programs, to help students to have exposure. But there are other more systemic issues in society that we need to work on as well. And so, and definitely having role models is one of them.
So what do you think that we as individuals or as a society should push for, and how can we impact kind of these injustices, and what can we ask the greater like government to do and advocate for in terms of public policy and things like that?
Well, yeah, these are things that we're working hard on. I think first, research is a really good source, like really showing the numbers. I think showing the numbers that there's really a need for more minorities on different levels in the profession, because it's to have better care of our patients, who like the diverse population that we have here in the U.S. And also, I think by now there have been several studies showing in different fields, not only the medical field, that how diversity really helps with better outcomes. It's a better teamwork that we can get. And so in terms of the government, I don't know. I mean, that's getting into a lot of different issues, because, we can start talking about structural racism, how also like the status of your insurance, that the insurance you put, how that leads you to a certain place, a certain care. So I've been also part of the coalition to dismantle racism in healthcare in New York. And this is a fantastic group that reflects on all these different issues in society and in healthcare policies, and how to advocate for that. So I would say joining groups, being part of different organizations like the National Medical Association, or like other medical associations that are advocating for healthcare policies, I think this is the first in order to get involved.
So what advice do you give to young minority girls who want to pursue a career in a STEM field, who might be socioeconomically disadvantaged? What can they do to kind of push past that kind of situation?
Well, I think one have mentors, and now it can get, for some people, a little difficult to know how do you find mentors, how do you establish that relationship, and there are different open houses. I think being informed about what's going on at your school, if you have a pre-health office, something of the kind, you should definitely get in touch with them, so in order to have information on what's going on, in order to attend open houses and join several organizations where you'll be able to interact and network. Networking is very important. Now, there are certain skills to acquire. I think people who are a little bit introverted, they can see that as something very overwhelming. But believe me, if you want to succeed in whatever you do, you just have to learn to be able to introduce yourself, and always think about what is the worst that can happen. If somebody, usually people want to help, and if you feel like it's not going like anywhere, when you meet somebody that the person is not really engaged, then that's okay. That's one person, and don't take it personally. Just continue to reach out and meet people. Just introduce yourself. And I think whenever you share your passion about something or your interest, it touches people, and they want to help, they want to know more about you. So I would say don't be afraid. It's very difficult. I used to be very introverted, and it's not easy, but as you attend more like open houses, panel discussions and stuff like that, you start to hear other people's questions, and also increase your knowledge. If you have an interest in something, just read about it, and whenever you meet people, you can always talk about what you like, and what, you know, if you're looking at somebody's research, I think that's really important. If you look at the research that is being done and maybe reach out to the person who's doing research on a subject, people love if you're interested in what they're pursuing. A lot of people are devoting their lives into their research projects. So if they see a student, a person that is interested, whether it's male or female, they'll be very, usually open to that. And yes, you can always encounter people who are not very receptive, but don't take that as the general trend. Most people want to help.
That's awesome advice. And I think that's all that I have for you today in terms of questions. Thank you for being one of the role models that you talked about that we need more of.
Yeah, I'm happy to share my
happy to share.
Also, keep in mind that people are busy, and if they don't reply right away, it's not because they want to reject you, or it's just that there are many things going on, and sometimes we receive an email at a moment where there's a lot going on. It gets lost with different things, so don't be afraid of persisting. If somebody does not reply right away, you can always reach out again, and don't be scared of doing that. I'm not saying being overly aggressive and not being considerate of people's time and obligations, but it doesn't hurt to send out a reminder if somebody doesn't get back to you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again for answering all of my questions and for helping all of the other girls who are going to watch this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I wish you best of luck with all your endeavors, and don't be afraid to reach out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.